Sometimes destiny places us exactly where we need to be, even when we don't know it at the time. The morning sun rays filtered through the enormous windows of the mansion, illuminating dust particles floating in the air like tiny stars. Elena Maria Campos never imagined that a simple cleaning job would completely change the course of her life. That Tuesday morning, when she crossed the imposing wrought-iron gate for the first time, she carried her cleaning supplies in a worn bag that had seen better days. Her 42 years were marked in every line of exhaustion around her dark eyes, but in them shone an unwavering determination that had kept her standing through the most difficult years. The sound came before anything else, an inconsolable cry that descended the marble stairs like a waterfall of pain. Elena Maria stopped in the middle of the entrance hall, the cleaning cloth still in her hand, feeling how that cry pierced the walls of her chest and touched something deep inside her. It was the cry of a small child no more than 2 years old, a sound so desperate it seemed to be searching for something it had never found. She climbed the stairs without thinking, following that invisible call. On the second floor, she found a young, well-dressed nanny who was mechanically trying to calm the little one, but her movements were clumsy, soulless, as if fulfilling just another task on her daily list. The child had a reddened face, tears running down his chubby cheeks, fists clenched in a gesture of childish frustration that broke the heart. "Let me," Elena Maria said softly, extending her arms. The nanny, relieved to be rid of that momentary responsibility, handed over the baby without asking questions. The instant Elena Maria cradled him against her chest, beginning to rock him with a natural rhythm that flowed from some deep place in her being, the crying began to diminish. She hummed an ancient melody, one of those songs passed down through generations, without anyone remembering exactly where they come from. The little one clung to her like a shipwreck survivor to a life raft, his tiny fingers tangling in her dark hair, his sobs turning into broken sighs. From the end of the hallway, a figure watched the scene. Diego Alejandro Navarro, 38 years old, heir to a technology empire he had built from scratch, leaned against the doorframe of his study. There was something about the way that woman held his son that left him paralyzed. It wasn't just technique or efficiency. It was a tenderness so genuine, so natural, that it contrasted painfully with everything he had seen in the last 2 years. His grey eyes, which had conquered boardrooms and negotiated million-dollar contracts, now contained a sadness so deep it seemed bottomless. The 5,000-square-meter mansion, with its original artworks and designer furniture, felt empty despite being full of objects. It was a beautiful but hollow shell, exactly as his heart felt since that terrible day that had changed everything. Elena Maria finally noticed his presence. Their eyes met across the hallway, and for a moment, something inexplicable passed between them. It wasn't attraction, at least not in the conventional sense. It was a mutual recognition of pain, of loss, of shared loneliness that neither could name but both felt. "You're the new cleaning employee, right?" asked Diego Alejandro, his voice hoarse as if he hadn't used it in a long time. "Yes, sir. I'm Elena Maria Campos. I'm sorry, I just heard the baby crying," and her words faded as she looked at the now calm child in her arms, sucking his thumb and looking at her with those big brown eyes that seemed to contain centuries of wisdom. "Don't apologize. My son, Mateo Jose. He's been like this since." Diego Alejandro stopped, unable to finish the sentence. He cleared his throat and straightened his shoulders, putting back on the mask of successful businessman he wore to face the world. "You can put him in the crib and continue with your work. Thank you for calming him." But when Elena Maria tried to place Mateo Jose in the crib, the little one began to cry again, clinging to her with surprising strength for someone so small. She looked at Diego Alejandro, who nodded with tired resignation. "Stay with him until he falls asleep. I'll pay you overtime." For the next hour, Elena Maria rocked little Mateo Jose, singing softly to him as she walked around the nursery, decorated with jungle animal murals and shelves full of expensive toys the child had probably never touched. She observed every detail, the framed photographs on the walls, all showing the baby with his father, none with a mother, the perfectly folded clothes in organized drawers, the children's books aligned by size and color, without the bent corners that would indicate frequent bedtime readings. This house had everything money could buy, but it lacked the only thing that really mattered: human warmth. When Mateo José finally fell asleep, Elena Maria laid him down with infinite care, watching how his chest rose and fell with each breath. She wondered what had happened in this family. What tragedy had left this beautiful child without the maternal love he so desperately needed? She went downstairs to begin her real work, cleaning each surface until it shined, but her mind remained on the second floor, with that child who had clung to her as if he recognized her. The following weeks established a pattern no one had anticipated, but seemed inevitable. Every time Elena Maria arrived at the Navarro mansion for her 3-day-a-week shift, little Mateo José waited for her at the second-floor window, his little hands pressed against the glass. The moment she crossed the threshold, his hurried footsteps could be heard running down the stairs, running toward her with outstretched arms. "Mama!" he would shout in that high-pitched voice of a small child that melted hearts. "Mama's here!" The nanny, a young woman named Sofia Isabel Romero, would run after him trying to correct him. "No, Mateo, she's not your mama, she's Elena, the cleaning lady." But the boy wouldn't listen. For him, that woman with the warm gaze and soft hands was everything he needed to know about what mama meant. Elena Maria felt a pang in her chest every time this happened. Part of her knew she should correct him, establish clear boundaries between her professional role and the growing emotional connection. But another part, a deeper and more primitive part, couldn't help but feel inexplicable joy every time the little one ran toward her. Diego Alejandro observed these scenes from a distance, his expression inscrutable. At first, Elena Maria feared he would fire her for confusing the child. But instead, one afternoon she found him waiting for her in the kitchen, his tie loosened and his white shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows. "Mrs. Campos, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice formal but not hostile. Elena Maria felt her stomach sink. Here it came, the moment when they would tell her she could no longer return. She nervously wiped her hands on her apron. "Yes, Mr. Navarro. I've noticed that that Mateo José has a special connection with you," he began, pouring himself a whiskey from a crystal decanter that probably cost more than everything Elena Maria owned. "I want to offer you a different position, not as a cleaning employee but as his primary caregiver. The salary would be $10,000 a month, with room included if you prefer." Elena Maria's world stopped. $10,000. It was more money than she had seen in her life. She could pay her debts, help her sister with their mother's medical expenses, finally leave that tiny apartment she shared with 3 other women. Sir, I don't know what to say," she stammered. "Say yes," Diego Alejandro responded, taking a long drink of his whiskey. "My son needs stability. He needs someone who really cares about him, not just someone who fulfills the required hours. I've seen how you look at him, how he responds to you. I can't explain it, but it's something I haven't seen since." He stopped abruptly, as if he had gotten too close to an emotional precipice he wasn't prepared to face. "Since when my wife was alive," he finally finished, his voice barely a whisper. Elena Maria felt as if ice-cold water had been poured down her back. So it was true what she had heard in whispers among the other employees. Diego Alejandro's wife had died, and judging by Mateo José's age, it must have been recently. "I accept," Elena Maria said before she could think too much. "I'll care for Mateo José as if he were my own." The words came out with more force than she had intended, charged with a promise even she didn't fully understand. In the following weeks, Elena Maria moved into one of the mansion's service rooms, a small but comfortable space on the 3rd floor that was a palace compared to where she had lived before. She began learning the house's routines, the complex rhythms of a home that functioned like a well-oiled but soulless machine. There was the housekeeper, Margarita Teresa Vega, a 60-year-old woman with calculating eyes who had worked for the Navarro family for 3 decades. She watched Elena Maria with a mixture of curiosity and something that seemed dangerously close to hostility. There was also a gardener, a chauffeur, a cook, and 2 cleaning employees who now did the work Elena Maria used to do. "Be careful," warned one of the cleaning employees. Rosa Maria Cruz, a middle-aged woman with a kind face. "Doña Margarita isn't what she seems. She's fired more than one person for reasons only she knows. But Elena Maria was too absorbed in her new responsibility to worry about domestic politics. Mateo José flourished under her care. He began to talk more, to laugh more frequently, to explore the world with a child's natural curiosity. She took him to the garden to observe butterflies, read him bedtime stories with different voices for each character, bathed him while they sang silly songs she invented on the spot. Diego Alejandro noticed the changes in his son, and something inside him loosened. He began coming home earlier, finding excuses to spend time in the areas where Elena Maria and Mateo José played. Sometimes he would sit in his study with the door open, simply listening to the laughter that filled the mansion's empty spaces. One night, while Elena Maria was putting Mateo José to bed, the little one whispered against her neck, "I love you, Mama." She felt tears burning in her eyes. She didn't correct him. She couldn't. Instead, she kissed his forehead and whispered back, "I love you too, my angel." She didn't see Diego Alejandro standing in the hallway, listening to every word, with an expression of pain so deep on his face it seemed something inside him was breaking or healing. It was impossible to know which. The third month at the Navarro mansion brought a comforting routine, but also questions Elena Maria couldn't stop asking herself. The walls of that house kept secrets in every corner, whispers of a previous life that had vanished, leaving only shadows. One rainy afternoon, while Mateo José slept his nap, Elena Maria found herself cleaning Diego Alejandro's private study. He had given her permission to organize his papers, trusting her in a way that seemed to go beyond the simple employer-employee relationship. Among folders of financial documents and business contracts, she found something that made her heart stop. A brown leather photo album, worn from use. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The first page showed a beautiful young woman with long, dark hair falling in waves over her shoulders. Her eyes were the same deep brown tone as Elena Maria's, and her smile. That smile was radiant, full of life and promises of future. She held a newborn baby wrapped in a light blue blanket. The caption under the photo read, "Ana Cristina and Mateo José, first day together." Elena Maria slowly turned the pages, observing the progression of happiness captured in each image. Diego Alejandro and Ana Cristina at their wedding, he in an impeccable tuxedo, and she in a lace dress that seemed made of moonlight. The two on a beach vacation, tanned and laughing. Ana Cristina with her round pregnancy belly, radiant with that special glow that women expecting a child have. And then, abruptly, the photo stopped. The last image showed Ana Cristina in a hospital bed, holding newborn Mateo José with an expression of love so pure that Elena Maria had to look away because it hurt too much. She died 3 days after that photo. Diego Alejandro's voice startled her. Elena Maria turned sharply, the album falling from her hands. He was at the door, his business suit perfectly pressed, but his eyes revealing a fatigue that went beyond the physical. "Mr. Navarro, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have," Elena Maria began, bending down to pick up the album. "No," Diego Alejandro interrupted her, entering the study and closing the door behind him. "It's okay. Maybe it's time someone else knew the truth." He sat on the leather sofa by the window overlooking the garden, gesturing for Elena Maria to sit in the chair across from him. She obeyed. The album now closed in her lap, feeling the weight of the memories contained in those pages. "Ana Cristina was everything to me," Diego Alejandro began, his voice hoarse with contained emotion. "We met in college. She was studying medicine, wanted to be a pediatrician. She said children deserve to have someone who really listened to them, who saw them as complete people and not just small patients." Elena Maria listened in silence as Diego Alejandro unfolded the story of a love that had been perfect until tragedy ripped it up by the roots. Ana Cristina had complications during delivery. The doctors did everything possible, but 3 days later a pulmonary embolism took her in a matter of minutes. "I was in a business meeting," Diego Alejandro confessed, and Elena Maria could see the guilt etched in every line of his face. "I got the call from the hospital, but by the time I arrived she had already gone. I didn't even get to say goodbye." Tears now flowed freely down his cheeks. This powerful man who controlled companies and moved millions of dollars, reduced to his most human elements by the weight of pain. Mateo José has her eyes, he continued. Every time I look at him, I see Ana Cristina. For a long time I couldn't be near him without feeling like I was drowning. That's why I hired so many nannies, so many caregivers. I thought if I kept my distance it would hurt less. But it didn't work that way, did it? Elena Maria asked softly. Diego Alejandro shook his head. I only felt emptier, and then you arrived and I saw how my son flourished in a way I'd never seen. It's as if you had something he recognizes, something he needs. Elena Maria felt a chill run down her spine. She looked again at Ana Cristina's photo in the album she still held. The similarity between them was undeniable. But it went beyond the physical. There was something in the eyes, in the expression, that was almost like looking in a mirror distorted by time. Can I ask you something personal, Mr. Navarro? Elena Maria said, after a long silence. Call me Diego Alejandro, please, and yes, ask whatever you want. Did Ana Cristina did she have family? Parents? Siblings? A shadow crossed Diego Alejandro's face. That's the other pain I carry. Ana Cristina was adopted as a baby. She never knew her biological parents. She spent years searching for them, especially when she got pregnant. She wanted Mateo José to know his roots, his complete history, but she never found them. The adoption records were sealed, and every lead took her to a dead end. Elena Maria felt something move in her chest, a strange sensation, as if pieces of a puzzle she didn't know she was assembling began to fit together. When was Ana Cristina born? March 15, 1983, Diego Alejandro answered without hesitation. Why do you ask? But Elena Maria couldn't answer. Her mind was racing, making calculations, remembering fragments of her own past that she had buried so deeply she had almost forgotten they existed. March 15, 1983. The same date marked on a birth certificate she had kept in a box at the bottom of her closet, a certificate for a girl she had given birth to when she was barely 17, a girl who had been taken from her before she could even hold her, telling her it was for the best, that a teenage single mother could never give her the life she deserved. Elena Maria stood up abruptly, the album falling to the floor again. Excuse me, I need air, she stammered, leaving the study before Diego Alejandro could stop her. She ran to her room, closed the door and collapsed on the bed, her body shaking with silent sobs. It was impossible. It was a cruel coincidence. Nothing more. It couldn't be. But deep in her heart, something told her she knew the truth. She had known from the first moment she held Mateo José in her arms. Destiny, that master of cruel ironies and inexplicable miracles, had woven a web so complex it defied all logic. That night, while rain beat against the mansion's windows, Elena Maria stayed awake, holding that old birth certificate with trembling hands, wondering how to tell Diego Alejandro that the woman he loved, the mother of his child, could have been her own daughter, lost so long ago. The days following that discovery were silent torture for Elena Maria. Every time she looked at Mateo José, she saw not only the precious child she had come to love as her own, but possibly her grandson. Every time she crossed glances with Diego Alejandro, she felt the weight of a secret that could change everything or destroy everything, depending on how she handled it. Doubt gnawed at her. What if she was wrong? What if her suspicions were just the desperate product of a heart that had always longed for the daughter she lost? She needed to be sure before saying anything. But how could she be sure without asking questions that would reveal too much? It was Margarita Teresa, the housekeeper, who inadvertently provided the next clue. One afternoon, while Elena Maria played with Mateo José in the living room, the older woman entered with a tea tray. "How similar you are to the late Mrs. Ana Cristina," she commented casually, though her calculating eyes observed every reaction from Elena Maria. "Not just in appearance, but in the way you treat little Mateo. It's almost unsettling." Elena Maria felt her blood freeze in her veins but kept her face neutral. "Really? I hadn't noticed." "Oh, yes," Margarita Teresa continued, serving tea with precise movements. Ana Cristina had this same way of singing, this same way of rocking babies. I know because I saw her practice during her residency at the children's hospital. I was the one who cared for her when she was small, you know? I was the nanny for the Garcia Mendoza family, the family that adopted her. Elena Maria's heart beat so hard she was sure everyone in the room could hear it. It must have been very difficult for you, too, when she died. Margarita Teresa's expression softened for a moment, showing genuine vulnerability she rarely revealed. It was like losing my own daughter. I saw her grow up from when she was 3 months old. The Garcia Mendozas picked her up from the hospital shortly after her birth. They never knew much about the biological mother, only that she was very young and couldn't care for her. Elena Maria had to bite her lip to keep it from trembling. Each word was one more confirmation of what her heart already knew. The hospital, do you remember which one? San Rafael Hospital, on the east side of the city, Margarita Teresa answered, her eyes narrowing slightly. Why so much interest in the family's history, Mrs. Campos? Simple curiosity, Elena Maria lied, taking a sip of tea to avoid having to say more. Mateo Jose talked so much about his mama lately that I wondered what she was like. It was a white lie. Mateo Jose, at barely 2.5 years old, could barely remember his mother. But it seemed to satisfy Margarita Teresa, who nodded and continued with her duties. That night, after putting Mateo Jose to bed, Elena Maria did something she had never done. She borrowed the car Diego Alejandro had made available to her and drove to San Rafael Hospital. It was late, almost 10 at night, but she knew hospitals never slept. The building rose against the night sky, its illuminated windows like eyes watching the city. Elena Maria had given birth here 25 years ago, in a small third-floor room that probably no longer existed after so many renovations. She remembered the pain, both physical and emotional, the nurse who had told her it would be better if she didn't look at the baby, that it would only make the goodbye harder. But she had looked. For 3 precious minutes she had held that small life in her arms, memorizing every detail of her face before they took her away. A baby with a tuft of dark hair and eyes that hadn't yet decided their permanent color, but who looked at her with such intensity that Elena Maria knew that moment would be etched in her soul forever. She entered the hospital, heading to the records department. The woman at the information desk looked tired but kind. "How can I help you?" "I need information about an adoption that occurred 25 years ago," Elena Maria said, her voice trembling. "My daughter. I gave my daughter up for adoption on March 15, 1983, and I need to know if there's any way to access those records." The employee sighed with sympathy. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but adoption records from that time are sealed by law. They can only be opened with a court order or with the consent of both parties, the biological mother and the adopted child." "But I am the biological mother," Elena Maria insisted, "and my daughter. I think my daughter died 2 years ago. Isn't there some way to at least confirm if it was her?" The employee looked at her with genuine compassion. "Let me speak with my supervisor. Wait here." The next 30 minutes were agony. Elena Maria paced back and forth in the small lobby, her hands clenched into fists, her mind torn between hope and fear. Finally, the employee returned, accompanied by an older man with glasses and a kind expression. "Ma'am, I understand your situation," the supervisor said. "Although I can't give you full access to the records, I can confirm certain basic facts if you can provide me with verifiable information. Do you remember the name of the nurse who attended your delivery, or any specific detail of the procedure?" Elena Maria closed her eyes, forcing her memory to return to that painful day. The nurse's name was Rosa Elena Morales. She had a mole on her left cheek and held my hand throughout the delivery. She gave me 3 minutes with my baby before taking her away. 3 exact minutes. The supervisor nodded and disappeared into the building's depths. When he returned 20 minutes later, his expression was serious. "I can confirm that a nurse named Rosa Elena Morales worked in the maternity unit on that date. I can also confirm that a baby girl born on that date was given up for adoption to a family surnamed Garcia Mendoza 3 months later. But that's all I can tell you without more legal documentation." It was enough. Elena Maria felt her knees weaken. She leaned against the counter, tears running down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you." She drove back to the mansion in a kind of trance, her mind processing the information over and over. Anna Christina had been her daughter. The beautiful child she had come to love as her own was her blood grandson. And the man who had trusted her to care for his most precious possession was the widower of her own daughter. The irony of destiny was as cruel as it was beautiful. She had spent 25 years wondering about the girl she had to give up, imagining what her life would be like, if she would be happy, if she would be okay. And now she discovered that her daughter had grown up loved, had become a doctor, had married a good man, had a beautiful son, and then died, leaving that son precisely in the arms of the grandmother who never knew she existed. When she arrived at the mansion, all the lights were off except one, Mateo José's room. Elena Maria climbed the stairs silently and found Diego Alejandro sitting in the rocking chair next to the crib, watching his son sleep. "I couldn't sleep," he explained quietly when he noticed her presence. "Sometimes I come here just to make sure he's breathing. I know it's irrational, but after losing Anna Christina..." Elena Maria approached and put a soft hand on his shoulder. Diego Alejandro looked up at her, and in that moment, something passed between them that hadn't been there before. It wasn't romantic love, at least not yet. It was a deeper understanding, a connection forged in shared pain and love for this little being sleeping peacefully. "Diego Alejandro," Elena Maria said softly, "there's something I need to tell you, something important, but first I need to be completely sure. Do you trust me?" He looked into her eyes for a long moment. "Yes," he finally answered. "I don't know why, but from the first day, I've trusted you in a way I can't explain." "Then wait a little longer," Elena Maria asked. "Give me a few more days to confirm something, and then I'll tell you everything. I promise it will change everything you think you know about destiny and family." Diego Alejandro nodded slowly, though confusion was evident on his face. But he didn't press for more information. Instead, he stood up from the rocking chair and in a gesture that surprised them both, hugged Elena Maria. It was a hug of two lost souls who had found comfort in the same unexpected place. And as they stood there in the dimness of the nursery, with Mateo José sleeping peacefully a few steps away, neither knew that Margarita Teresa was in the hallway, watching with an expression mixing concern and determination. She also had secrets, and she was beginning to suspect that Elena Maria's presence in this house wasn't as much a coincidence as everyone thought. Confirmation came a week later, in the form of a manila envelope Elena Maria had paid to receive privately. It contained the results of a DNA test she had managed to perform discreetly with a hair sample from Mateo José and her own blood sample. The words on the official paper swam before her eyes as tears blurred them, but the message was clear. Probability of grandparentage, 99. 97%. Mateo José was her grandson. Elena Maria sat on the edge of her bed, the envelope falling from her trembling hands. For 25 years she had lived with a hole in her heart, wondering about the daughter she had to give up. She had imagined thousands of scenarios about what her life would be like, if she would be happy, if she would ever think of the mother who couldn't stay with her, but never in any of her wildest dreams had she imagined this. Destiny had been cruel in taking her daughter away, without ever being able to meet her. But it had also been merciful in giving her a second chance with her grandson, a child who had recognized and loved her from the first moment. Now came the hard part, telling Diego Alejandro the truth. She waited until Saturday, when Diego Alejandro had no work commitments and Mateo José was taking his afternoon nap. She found him in his study, reviewing documents, his reading glasses resting on the tip of his nose in a way that made him seem more accessible, more human than the imposing businessman the world saw. "Diego Alejandro, can we talk?" she asked from the door, her voice barely a whisper. He looked up immediately, and something in his expression told her he had been waiting for this moment. "Of course. Come in." "Close the door." Elena Maria obeyed, her legs feeling weak as she approached the sofa where he had already sat, indicating she should join him. She carried the envelope in her hands, the paper wrinkled from how hard she had been gripping it. "The other night I told you I needed time to confirm something," she began, her voice trembling. "I've discovered something that's going to change everything you think you know about me, about Ana Cristina, about why Mateo José and I have this inexplicable connection." Diego Alejandro straightened, his expression becoming intense. "I'm listening." Elena Maria took a deep breath. There was no easy way to say this. "When I was 17, I got pregnant. I was young, alone, had no resources. My family forced me to give the baby up for adoption. They didn't even let me hold her more than a few minutes. They told me it was for the best, that a teenage mother could never give her the life she deserved." Diego Alejandro's hands tensed on his knees, but he didn't interrupt. "For 25 years, I lived with that emptiness," Elena Maria continued, tears now running freely down her cheeks. "Every March 15th, my daughter's birthday, I would light a candle and wonder where she was, if she was happy, if she ever thought of me. I tried to find her when she turned 18, but the records were sealed. It seemed destiny had decided I would never meet her." "Elena Maria," Diego Alejandro began, his voice hoarse. "When I saw Ana Cristina's photo," she interrupted, needing to finish before losing courage. "When Margarita Teresa told me she had been adopted as a baby from San Rafael Hospital, when I saw that her birthday was March 15th, 1983, I knew it couldn't be a coincidence. So I went to the hospital. I confirmed the details I could remember. And then..." She extended the envelope to him with trembling hands. "I had a DNA test done. Mateo José is my blood grandson. Ana Cristina was my daughter." The silence that followed was so profound, Elena Maria could hear the tick-tock of the antique clock on the fireplace mantel. Diego Alejandro took the envelope, pulled out the documents, read them once, then again. His face went through a series of emotions: shock, disbelief, confusion, and finally, something that seemed dangerously close to anger. "How can I be sure this is real?" he finally asked, his voice sharp. "How do I know you haven't fabricated all this to what, money? To secure your position here?" The words were like a slap, but Elena Maria understood them. She would have doubted too if the papers were reversed. "You can do your own test," she said calmly. "In fact, you should. You need to be sure. I just needed you to know the truth. I didn't come here looking for this, Diego Alejandro. I came looking for honest work to pay my debts. I found something I didn't even know I was missing." Diego Alejandro stood up abruptly, walking to the window overlooking the garden, his back rigid with tension. "Ana Cristina spent years searching for her biological mother," he said, his voice broken, "especially when she knew she was pregnant. She wanted our son to know his roots, his complete history. She hired private investigators, searched every available database, and she never could find you." "I know," Elena Maria whispered. "And I never could find her. The records were sealed, the laws were different then. It was as if the universe had deliberately kept us apart." "Until now," Diego Alejandro turned to look at her, tears shining in his eyes. "Until you come here to my house to care for my son, and it turns out to be..." He couldn't finish the sentence. He collapsed back on the sofa, his head in his hands, sobbing with an intensity Elena Maria had never seen in him. Without thinking, she approached and hugged him, letting him cry against her shoulder, as Mateo José often did with her. They remained like that for a long time, two people shattered by the same pain, united by the same love. When Diego Alejandro finally calmed down, he pulled back slightly, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "I need time to process this," he said. "I need to do my own test, as you said. Not because I don't believe you, but because I need. I need to be sure for Mateo José, for Ana Cristina's memory." "I understand perfectly," Elena Maria responded. "Take all the time you need." "But I don't want you to leave," Diego Alejandro added quickly, grabbing her hand. "Mateo José needs you. I need you here. Regardless of what the tests show, you're important to this family." Elena Maria felt her heart swell with an emotion she couldn't name. It wasn't just relief or gratitude. It was something deeper, more complex. "I'm not going anywhere," she promised. "This is my place now, with my grandson, and with you." The words hung in the air between them, loaded with meanings neither was ready to fully explore. That night, after Mateo José was asleep, Elena Maria sat in her room with the old photo album Diego Alejandro had lent her. She looked at each image of Ana Cristina, searching for signs of herself in that beautiful young woman who had grown up without knowing her true mother. They were there, in the shape of the smile, in the hand gestures, in the way she tilted her head when thinking. Her daughter had lived a full life in 25 years. She had been loved, studied medicine, married, had a son. She had been happy, at least in the photos. And although Elena Maria would never have the chance to meet her, to tell her how much she had loved her, even when she had to let her go, she could do something for her now. She could care for Mateo José. She could give him all the love she couldn't give Ana Cristina. She could make sure he knew about his mother, about the legacy of love and kindness she had left behind. And maybe, just maybe, she could help Diego Alejandro heal. Because if she had learned anything in her 42 years of life, it was that love could take many forms, and that second chances, when they came, should be treasured. Destiny had been cruel in separating her from her daughter, but now it was giving her a chance at redemption, a chance to be part of the family she should have had from the beginning. And Elena Maria was determined not to waste it. The results of the second DNA test arrived 3 weeks later, during one of those June afternoons when the sun seemed never to want to set. Diego Alejandro had insisted on using a different laboratory, one recommended by his personal lawyer, to eliminate any possibility of error or manipulation. Elena Maria had understood the need and hadn't been offended. If anything, she appreciated his caution when it came to Mateo José. She was in the garden with the little one, watching him chase butterflies among the rose bushes that Margarita Teresa kept impeccably maintained, when she saw Diego Alejandro come out of the house. He carried the envelope in his hand, but it was his expression that made Elena Maria's heart stop, a mixture of amazement, renewed pain, and something that seemed like hope. "It's true," he said simply when he approached her. "Everything is true. You're Ana Cristina's mother. You're Mateo's grandmother." Elena Maria felt her legs weaken. Although she had been sure, although all the evidence pointed to this, hearing it confirmed so definitively hit her with unexpected force. Diego Alejandro grabbed her arm, holding her up. "Sit down," he urged, guiding her to one of the wrought-iron benches under a weeping willow. "Mama, look, look!" shouted Mateo José, completely oblivious to the monumental moment unfolding between the adults. He held a yellow flower he had plucked from the garden, his eyes bright with childish pride. "It's beautiful, my angel," Elena Maria said automatically, her voice trembling. "Take it inside and ask Margarita to put it in water, okay?" The boy nodded enthusiastically and ran toward the house, leaving the two adults alone under the whispering branches of the willow. "Ana Cristina's entire life," Diego Alejandro began, his voice hoarse. "She searched to know where she came from. She made me promise shortly before she died that if there was ever a way to find her biological mother, I would do it. She wanted Mateo José to know his complete history." He pulled from the envelope not just the DNA results, but also a letter, written on thin paper with elegant handwriting. "I found this among her things a few months ago, but I couldn't read it until now. It's a letter she wrote to her biological mother, never sent because she never knew where to send it." With trembling hands, he extended the letter to Elena Maria. She took it, feeling the weight of her daughter's unspoken words. For a moment she couldn't open it. What would Ana Cristina say? Would there be resentment? Anger for having been given up for adoption? Finally, with Diego Alejandro sitting beside her in silent support, she unfolded the paper and began to read. "Dear Mother, I don't know if you'll ever read these words, but I need to write them anyway. I need to tell you that I forgive you, though I don't know what forced you to make the decision you made. I need to tell you that I don't blame you. I was loved. My adoptive parents, Carlos and Maria Garcia Mendoza, gave me everything a girl could dream of. I had an excellent education, wonderful trips, but most importantly, I had unconditional love. They told me from a young age that I was adopted, that my biological mother had loved me so much she made the hardest decision a mother can make, letting me go to give me a better life. For years I wondered about you, What were you like? Did you have my same eye color? Did you like medicine like me? Did you think of me on my birthday like I thought of you? Now I'm pregnant with my first child, and I finally understand the weight of what you did. I understand the sacrificial love it must have required to let go of a piece of your heart. I can't imagine giving up this baby growing inside me, which makes me appreciate your strength even more. I want you to know that your sacrifice wasn't in vain. I became a doctor because I want to help children, especially those in difficult situations. I want to be for others the kind of hope my adoptive parents were for me. If you ever read this, I want you to know that I hold no grudge. I only have gratitude. Gratitude for giving me life, for making the difficult decision, for loving enough to let me go. With love and forgiveness, Anna Cristina. By the time Elena Maria finished reading, tears ran freely down her face, falling on the paper and making the ink run slightly. Diego Alejandro was crying too, unashamed, allowing his pain and relief to mix in a torrent of emotion. She didn't blame me, Elena Maria sobbed. My baby didn't blame me. She loved you without even knowing you, Diego Alejandro said, taking her hand. And now I understand why Mateo Jose recognized you from the first moment. Blood recognizes blood, even when the mind cannot. They sat there for a long time, holding the letter between them, crying for the woman they had both loved in different ways, for the missed opportunities, for the stolen years. Inside the house, invisible to them, Margarita Teresa watched from a second-floor window, her expression inscrutable. Mateo Jose was beside her, jumping excitedly while showing her his yellow flower. "Why are Mama and Papa crying?" the boy asked, his little voice full of concern. "Sometimes adults cry when they're happy, little one," Margarita Teresa responded. Though her eyes revealed she knew this was more complicated than simple happiness. She had kept her own secrets all these years. She had witnessed moments no one else knew, and now, seeing how the pieces were falling into place, she knew her time of silence was coming to an end. Because Margarita Teresa knew something neither Elena Maria nor Diego Alejandro had discovered yet. She had been present the day Ana Cristina was born. She had been the one who had carried the newborn baby from her teenage mother's arms to the Garcia Mendoza's arms. She had been the one who saw the pain in Elena Maria's eyes 25 years ago, who heard her desperate pleas to keep her baby, who witnessed how her family forced her to sign the adoption papers. And she had been the one who, recognizing Elena Maria from the first day she entered the Navarro mansion, had kept silent, watching as destiny wove its complicated web. The question now was, should she reveal what she knew? Should she tell them about the exact circumstances of the adoption, about Elena Maria's family that had abandoned her when she needed them most, about the secrets that still remained buried? Margarita Teresa looked again toward the garden, where Diego Alejandro and Elena Maria had finally risen from the bench, slowly walking back to the house with hands intertwined in a gesture of mutual comfort. She decided she would wait a little longer. Some truths needed to be revealed in their own time, and this was just the beginning of a journey that would change this family in ways none of them could imagine yet. Meanwhile, she would have to deal with another problem, Isabel Sofia Vargas, her niece, who had begun making frequent visits with the clear intention of winning Diego Alejandro's heart. Margarita Teresa had encouraged these visits at first, thinking her niece would be a good stepmother for Mateo Jose and a suitable companion for Diego Alejandro. But now, seeing the connection between Diego Alejandro and Elena Maria, a connection forged not only in shared love for Mateo Jose, but in the pain of having loved and lost the same extraordinary woman, Margarita Teresa realized her niece would never have a chance. True love, she was discovering, didn't always arrive in the expected way. Sometimes it came disguised as a simple domestic employee who turned out to be the missing piece that completed a family's puzzle. The revelation had changed the dynamics of the Navarro house in subtle but profound ways. Diego Alejandro had insisted that Elena Maria move from the service room to one of the main guest suites on the second floor, right next to Mateo Jose's room. "Your family," he had said simply when she protested. "My son's grandmother deserves more than an employee's room." But with this change came a new and complex tension. Margarita Teresa, who had observed everything in silence, began to act strangely. Her comments, previously subtly hostile, became more direct. "It's extraordinary how destiny works, isn't it?" she commented one morning while Elena Maria had breakfast with Mateo Jose, a domestic employee who turns out to be the grandson's grandmother. Some might think it's too much of a coincidence. Elena Maria looked up from helping Mateo Jose with his cereal, catching the insinuating tone in the older woman's voice. "What are you insinuating, Margarita Teresa?" "Oh, nothing at all," the housekeeper responded, cleaning the counter with precise movements. "Only that it's curious, very curious." But before Elena Maria could press further, the front door opened with a dramatic sound. A young woman entered, her high heels clicking against the marble floor, carrying shopping bags from luxury brands. "Aunt Margarita," she called in a high-pitched voice, "I brought gifts for little Mateo." Elena Maria recognized Isabel Sofia Vargas from her previous visits. Margarita Teresa's niece was beautiful in a calculated way, perfect blonde hair, clearly dyed, impeccable makeup, designer clothes that hugged her carefully maintained figure. She was 30, but seemed to be trying to look 25, with that barely hidden air of desperation of someone who feels their time is running out. "Isabel Sofia, what a surprise," Margarita Teresa said, though it was obvious the visit had been planned. "Diego Alejandro isn't home." "Oh, I know," Isabel Sofia responded with a laugh that sounded fake, even to untrained ears. "I came to spend time with Mateo Jose. Children need a constant female figure, don't you think?" Her eyes fell on Elena Maria with a quick and dismissive evaluation. "Oh, you must be the new nanny. Margarita has told me about you. It's so sweet how the boy has taken a liking to you." Elena Maria felt the instant tension but kept her voice calm. "Actually, I'm much more than a nanny. I'm Mateo Jose's grandmother." The silence that followed was absolute. Isabel Sofia blinked, clearly confused. Grandmother, but Ana Cristina was adopted. Her biological parents never. "It turns out life is more complex than it seems," Margarita Teresa interrupted, her tone sharp. "Elena Maria is Ana Cristina's biological mother. DNA tests confirmed it." Isabel Sofia opened and closed her mouth several times, clearly trying to process this information and how it affected her plans. Finally, she forced a bright smile. How wonderful. It must be so special for you. But still, Mateo Jose needs more than just a grandmother, right? He needs a real mother. Someone young who can run with him. Someone like you, I suppose, said a deep voice from the door. Diego Alejandro had returned without anyone noticing. He was leaning against the doorframe, his grey eyes fixed on Isabel Sofia, with an expression that wasn't exactly hostile but wasn't friendly either. "Diego Alejandro!" Isabel Sofia squealed, running toward him with outstretched arms. "I didn't expect to see you so early." He gently moved away from her attempted hug. "I cancelled my morning meetings. I wanted to spend time with my son." His eyes moved to Elena Maria, and something passed between them. A silent communication that needed no words. "Isabel Sofia, I appreciate your interest in Mateo Jose, but I think it's time to be clear. My son has all the family he needs. He has his father and he has his grandmother. We're not looking to fill any void because there's no void to fill." Isabel Sofia's face turned red. "But Margarita said that you needed company, that Mateo Jose needed." "My aunt spoke without my authorization," Diego Alejandro interrupted, his tone making it clear it wasn't a topic for discussion. "I appreciate the past visits, but in the future it would be better if you called before coming." It was a polite but firm rejection. Isabel Sofia grabbed her bags with trembling hands, tears of humiliation and rage shining in her eyes. "I understand perfectly," she said with a strangled voice. "Aunt Margarita, are you coming or not?" But Margarita Teresa slowly shook her head. "I live here, Isabel Sofia. This is my job." With a last hurt glance at everyone in the room, Isabel Sofia left, slamming the door so hard it echoed throughout the mansion. Mateo Jose, who had been watching everything with big confused eyes, began to cry from the loud noise. Immediately, both Elena Maria and Diego Alejandro moved toward him, but it was Elena Maria who arrived first, lifting him in her arms and gently rocking him. "Shh, my love, it's okay. Just a loud noise. You're safe." Diego Alejandro watched mother and grandson, an expression of tenderness mixed with something more intense crossing his face. Margarita Teresa also watched, but her expression was different. It was of someone who was evaluating, calculating, deciding. "Mr. Navarro," she finally said, "I think it's time we had a conversation, a long and honest conversation about the past." Diego Alejandro frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Margarita Teresa took a deep breath, as if preparing for a leap, "that I've kept secrets for 25 years. Secrets about Ana Cristina's adoption, about the circumstances of her birth, about the family that forced a teenage mother to give up her baby." Elena Maria froze, feeling as if ice-cold water had been poured down her back. "What do you know?" "I know everything," Margarita Teresa responded, "because I was there. I was the one who carried Ana Cristina from your arms to the Garcia Mendoza's arms. I saw what your family did to you, and I've carried that knowledge all these years." The silence in the kitchen was so dense it could be cut with a knife. Mateo José had stopped crying and now looked between the adults, sensing the tension, though he couldn't understand it. "Tell your story," Diego Alejandro finally said, his voice tense. "Tell everything." And Margarita Teresa did. She spoke about a conservative and religious family that had discovered their teenage daughter was pregnant. She spoke about a father who called his daughter a disgrace and a mother who cried but did nothing to defend her. She spoke about how they had locked Elena Maria away during her pregnancy, keeping her hidden from neighbors and friends. She spoke about the day of delivery, when Elena Maria, barely 17 years old, had given birth at San Rafael Hospital. She spoke about how the family had insisted she sign the adoption papers immediately, threatening to leave her on the street if she refused. "They gave her 3 minutes with her baby," Margarita Teresa said, her voice breaking for the first time. 3 minutes to memorize her daughter's face before I had to take her away. I'll never forget her eyes when Ana Cristina was torn from her arms. It was as if something inside her died that day. Elena Maria was crying now, deep sobs that shook her entire body. Diego Alejandro approached and surrounded her with his arms, holding both her and Mateo José in a protective embrace. After that, Margarita Teresa continued, her family threw her out anyway. I saw her on the street a few months later, thin and desperate, trying to survive. I wanted to help her, but the Garcia Mendozas had made me promise never to reveal the biological mother's identity. I was bound by that secret. "Why didn't you say anything when you saw me here?" Elena Maria asked between sobs. "Because I needed to see how it unfolded," Margarita Teresa admitted. "I needed to know if you were here because somehow you had discovered who Ana Cristina was, or if it really was destiny working in mysterious ways. When I saw how Mateo José recognized you, how Diego Alejandro began to trust you without really knowing you, I knew it was the latter." She approached Elena Maria and, to everyone's surprise, took her hands. "I failed you 25 years ago. I didn't have the courage to stand up to that terrible family. But I can tell you now, Ana Cristina had a beautiful life. The Garcia Mendozas loved her as if she were their own blood. And although she never met you, she honored you with the kind of person she became." "Thank you," Elena Maria whispered. "Thank you for telling me that." Diego Alejandro wiped his own tears with the back of his free hand. "So we've all been marked by the same tragedy," he said. "We've all loved and lost Ana Cristina, but we all love Mateo José, and maybe that's enough to start again." He looked at Elena Maria, and in that moment something changed between them. It was no longer just the connection of two people united by love for a child. It was the recognition of something deeper, something that had been growing from the first day, but neither had been ready to name. Margarita Teresa saw it in their eyes and smiled for the first time in a long while, a genuine smile without calculations or schemes behind it. "I think I'll leave the family alone," she said, discreetly withdrawing from the kitchen. Elena Maria and Diego Alejandro remained there, with Mateo José between them, the boy now playing contentedly with the necklace Elena Maria always wore, completely unaware of the monumental moment that had just occurred. "I don't know how to proceed from here," Diego Alejandro admitted. "Everything I thought I knew about my life, about my family, has changed in a matter of weeks." "Then let's find out together," Elena Maria responded. "For Mateo Jose, for Ana Cristina, and maybe for ourselves too." Diego Alejandro nodded, and though neither said it aloud, both felt the change. Destiny had brought them together in the most improbable way, weaving a web so complex of pain and loss that it could only be resolved in love and redemption. What neither knew was that this was just the beginning. Because although Margarita Teresa had revealed her secrets, there were other secrets still hidden in San Rafael Hospital's files, in sealed adoption records, secrets about Ana Cristina's father's true identity, secrets that when they finally came to light would change everything once again. But that would be for another day. For now, the three remained together in that sun-bathed afternoon kitchen, an improvised family forged not by blood alone, but by something much stronger. Love that refuses to die even when tested by the greatest tragedies. The most difficult truths are those that change everything we believed we knew about ourselves. 3 months had passed since the revelations that had shaken the foundations of the Navarro mansion. Life had found a new rhythm, a strange but comforting one. Elena Maria was no longer simply Mateo Jose's caregiver, she was his recognized grandmother, an integral part of the family being rebuilt on the ashes of pain. Diego Alejandro had changed too. He arrived earlier from work, sat with Elena Maria and Mateo Jose during dinners, shared stories about Ana Cristina that helped keep her memory alive. Between him and Elena, Maria had grown something neither dared to name, a connection that went beyond shared love for the child. It was during one of those quiet afternoons, while Mateo Jose played in the garden under Margarita Teresa's watchful eye, that an unexpected envelope arrived. The postman delivered it personally, requiring Diego Alejandro's signature. "It's from San Rafael Hospital," he said, frowning as he opened the envelope. "Medical Records Department." Elena Maria felt her stomach sink. They hadn't requested any additional records. Why would the hospital be contacting them? Diego Alejandro read the letter in silence, his expression changing from confusion to absolute shock. His hands began to tremble, the paper falling onto the coffee table. "Diego Alejandro, what's wrong?" asked Elena Maria, quickly rising from the sofa. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he picked up the paper again and extended it to her with a trembling hand. Elena Maria read, "Dear Mr. Navarro, during a digitization process of old records, we have discovered documents related to the birth of Ana Cristina Garcia Mendoza, deceased, in 1983. Due to recent changes in medical privacy laws and after verifying DNA tests archived in our database, we are authorized to reveal previously sealed information. The records indicate that Ana Cristina's biological father is identified in the original birth documents. His name is Carlos Eduardo Navarro, deceased in 1985. We attach a certified copy of the original birth certificate for your review. Sincerely, Dr. Roberto Martin Sanchez, Director of Medical Records." Elena Maria read the words once, then again, her brain refusing to process what they said. Carlos Eduardo Navarro, Diego Alejandro's surname. "It can't be," she whispered. "It's just a coincidence. Navarro is a common surname." But Diego Alejandro had grabbed the attached certificate, studying it with feverish intensity. "Carlos Eduardo Navarro," he read aloud. "Age at time of conception, 19 years old. Occupation, college student. Address in 1982, Hope Street 247, apartment 3B. He gasped. "That was my uncle's address, my father's younger brother." The world stopped. Elena Maria felt her legs give way and let herself fall onto the sofa, her head spinning. "Your uncle? Carlos Eduardo was your uncle." "He died in a motorcycle accident when I was 15, Diego Alejandro said, his voice monotone as if in shock. "He never married, never had children, or so we thought." The implications began to fall on them like an avalanche. If Carlos Eduardo Navarro was Ana Cristina's father, that meant Ana Cristina had been Diego Alejandro's cousin. which meant he had married his own cousin without knowing it, which meant Mateo Jose. My God! Elena Maria brought her hands to her mouth. Ana Cristina was your cousin. You married your cousin. We didn't know. Diego Alejandro stood up abruptly, pacing back and forth. We had no idea. She was adopted. We never knew. Carlos Eduardo never said. He stopped in front of the window, his ghostly reflection in the glass. My whole life I've kept the memory of my Uncle Carlos as this brilliant young man who died too soon. My father always said he was his pride. And now I discover he got a teenager pregnant and never told anyone. Elena Maria approached him slowly, placing a hand on his shoulder. He was 19. He was young too, probably scared. But he stole years from me. Diego Alejandro turned to her, tears running down his face. If I had known Ana Cristina was my cousin, we could have been in her life from childhood. She could have known her real family, and you could have known your daughter. The anger and pain in his voice were palpable. Elena Maria understood because she felt the same. An impotent rage against a destiny that seemed bent on playing cruel games with their lives. I need air, Diego Alejandro said abruptly. I need to process this. He left the house, leaving Elena Maria alone with the weight of this new truth. She looked at the documents scattered on the table, physical evidence of how destiny had woven their lives in ways none could have imagined. Carlos Eduardo Navarro, Diego Alejandro's uncle, Ana Cristina's father, Mateo Jose's grandfather on the paternal side, which meant Diego Alejandro and Ana Cristina had shared blood without knowing it. They were second cousins, distant enough genetically that there was no significant medical risk for Mateo Jose, but close enough that the truth felt like a violation. Margarita Teresa entered the room with Mateo Jose in her arms. The boy was tired from playing, with rosy cheeks and tousled hair. "Where's Papa?" he asked in his little voice. "Papa went out for a moment, my love," Elena Maria responded, extending her arms to take the boy. "But Mama is here." Mateo Jose snuggled against her, sucking his thumb, completely unaware of the bombs that had just exploded in the adult's world. Margarita Teresa looked at the documents on the table and paled. "So it's true," she whispered. "I always wondered. Carlos Eduardo was so reserved in his last years. There were rumors in the family about a secret girlfriend, but no one knew details." "Did you know anything about this?" asked Elena Maria, her voice sharper than intended. "No." Margarita Teresa shook her head firmly. "The Garcia Mendozas never revealed the biological father's name, not even to me. They only said he was a college student who didn't want to get involved. If I had known it was Carlos Eduardo Navarro. My God, if I had known." Elena Maria looked out the window, seeing Diego Alejandro walking through the garden, his shoulders hunched under the weight of this new knowledge. "What do we do now?" she asked aloud, though she didn't really expect an answer. "Keep loving each other," Margarita Teresa said simply. "Keep being family. This truth doesn't change that." But Elena Maria knew it did change things. It changed everything. Diego Alejandro spent 3 days practically locked in his study, coming out only to see Mateo Jose for brief moments before retreating again. Elena Maria respected his need for space, but her heart ached seeing him suffer like this. It was on the night of the 3rd day that she finally knocked on his study door. There was no response, but she entered anyway. She found him sitting on the floor, surrounded by old boxes full of photographs and letters. "These are my Uncle Carlos's personal effects," he explained without looking up. "I kept them after his death. My father was going to throw them away, but I felt it would be a betrayal to forget him completely." Elena Maria sat on the floor next to him, observing photographs of a handsome young man with grey eyes similar to Diego Alejandro's. "He looked like you," she commented softly. "Everyone said so." Diego Alejandro lifted a photo of Carlos Eduardo on his motorcycle, smiling at the camera with that carefree confidence of youth. "He was my hero when I was a kid. He taught me to ride a bike, took me to football games. When he died, I felt like I lost a part of myself." He picked up another photograph, This one of Carlos Eduardo with his arm around a young girl with dark hair and bright eyes. They were at what looked like a fair, with colored lights shining behind them. "I'd never seen this photo before," Diego Alejandro said, studying it more closely. "It must be from shortly before his death." Elena Maria leaned in to look better and felt her heart stop. The girl in the photo was 17, maybe 18. And although the image was old and slightly blurred, there was no mistake in recognizing that face. It was herself. "Diego Alejandro." Her voice was barely a whisper. "That's me. That girl in the photo. That's me." He looked at her with disbelief, then back at the photograph, comparing it with Elena Maria's face. "But that would mean you and Carlos Eduardo." "We met at a fair." Elena Maria closed her eyes, forcing her memory back to that summer so long ago. "I was 17. I had just graduated from high school. He was older, in college. He was kind, funny. We dated for 3 months that summer." Tears began running down her cheeks. "When I discovered I was pregnant, I tried to contact him. I went to his apartment, but his roommates said he had returned to his family's home. I didn't know how to find him. I didn't know his full surname. I only knew his name was Carlos Eduardo. He never told me his family was rich, never mentioned the Navarros." Diego Alejandro looked at her with an expression of amazement and horror mixed. "So it was you. You were the mysterious girlfriend my family whispered about. My uncle came home that fall different, quieter. He died less than 2 years later, never knowing he had a daughter. I didn't know how to find him," Elena Maria sobbed. "When my family discovered my pregnancy, they locked me up. They took away my freedom, my phone, everything. By the time Ana Cristina was born, I had lost all hope of contacting the father." Diego Alejandro took her hand, squeezing it tightly. "All this time we've been connected. You loved my uncle. He was your daughter's father. And then I fell in love with that daughter, without ever knowing she was my cousin." They remained silent for a long moment, processing the impossible layers of connection that united them. "Do you think Ana Cristina and I—" Diego Alejandro couldn't finish the question, but Elena Maria knew what he was asking. "No," she responded firmly. "The love you and Ana Cristina shared was real and pure. Don't contaminate it with guilt for something neither of you knew. You were distant cousins, distant enough that it didn't matter medically, and you loved each other. That's all that matters." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I saw how she looked at you in the photographs." Elena Maria took the album they had been looking at weeks before. "Because I read her letter. She loved you with all her heart. And you loved her the same way. That doesn't change just because we now know the truth about her lineage." Diego Alejandro rested his head on Elena Maria's shoulder, and she held him while he cried, releasing years of pain, confusion, and now this new burden of knowledge. "I don't know how to move forward from here," he admitted. "I don't know how to look at Mateo Jose without thinking about all these twisted connections." "You look at him and see your son," Elena Maria said firmly. "You look at him and see the beautiful boy who is the product of love, no matter how complicated his history. We, the adults, carry the complexity. He just needs to know he's loved." Diego Alejandro nodded slowly, wiping his eyes. "You're right. You've always been right about this." He sat up straight, looking at her directly. "Elena Maria, there's something I need to tell you. Something I've been feeling for months but didn't know how to express." Her heart began to beat faster. "What is it?" "I've fallen in love with you." The words came out in a torrent. "I know it's complicated. I know you loved my uncle. I know I'm your daughter's widower. I know every part of this is impossibly tangled, but I can't deny it anymore. I love you. Not just as my son's grandmother, but as the woman who has brought light back to my life." Elena Maria felt the world stop. She had felt the attraction growing between them, the connection that went beyond what was appropriate or expected. But hearing it said aloud was different. "Diego Alejandro, I've felt something too," she admitted, "but I'm afraid. I'm afraid we're confusing shared pain with love. I'm afraid of dishonoring Ana Cristina's memory." "Ana Cristina would want us to be happy," Diego Alejandro said with conviction. "You read her letter. She was all about love and forgiveness. I don't think she would condemn us for finding comfort in each other. Elena Maria knew he was right, but still she hesitated. It was all so complicated, so tangled in layers of history and pain. I need time, she finally said. Time to process all this. The revelations about Carlos Eduardo, about our past connection, about what it means for Mateo José, and time to understand my own feelings without the pressure of making immediate decisions. Diego Alejandro nodded, though disappointment was visible on his face. I'll take all the time you need, just don't pull away. I can't lose you too. I'm not going anywhere, Elena Maria promised. This is my family now. Whatever happens between us, I'll always be Mateo José's grandmother. I'll always be here. They sat together among the boxes of Carlos Eduardo's memories, two souls connected by invisible threads extending through decades and pain, trying to find meaning in a destiny that seemed bent on uniting them no matter how many obstacles it put in their way. The weeks that followed were a period of introspection and growth for everyone in the Navarro mansion. Diego Alejandro respected the space Elena Maria had asked for, but he couldn't hide the feelings that shone in his eyes every time he looked at her. Mateo José, now 3 years old, was the light that kept everyone together. His laughter filled the empty hallways. His infinite curiosity forced everyone to see the world with new eyes. Elena Maria spent her days teaching him numbers and colors, reading him stories, answering his endless questions about everything. "Why is the sky blue, Mama?" the boy asked one afternoon while they played in the garden. "Because the sky is happy," Elena Maria responded, kissing his little head. "When you're happy, what color do you feel?" "Blue!" Mateo José shouted with joy. "Like my eyes!" And it was true. The boy's eyes were an extraordinary light blue, different from his father's gray and Elena Maria's brown. They must have come from Ana Cristina, who according to photos also had light eyes that changed color depending on the light. Margarita Teresa observed these interactions with an increasingly soft expression. The older woman had changed since revealing her secrets, as if releasing that burden had allowed her to be more human, more warm. "You know," she said one afternoon while helping Elena Maria fold Mateo José's clothes, "in all my years working for wealthy families, I've never seen something like this. A family built on so much pain but also so much love. Sometimes pain is the path to the deepest love," Elena Maria reflected, "because when you've suffered, you really appreciate moments of joy." "Have you made a decision about Diego Alejandro?" Margarita Teresa asked directly. Elena Maria sighed. "My heart decided long ago. It's my head that keeps arguing." "And what does your heart say?" "That I love him," Elena Maria admitted, saying the words aloud for the first time. "That when I'm with him, I feel like I've finally come home after 42 years of wandering. That Mateo José deserves to grow up in a home full of love, not just two adults caring for him separately. So what's the problem?" "I'm afraid it's too soon. I'm afraid of betraying Ana Cristina. I'm afraid people will judge us. Him, my daughter's widower. Me, the biological mother who abandoned her. Tongues in society can be cruel." Margarita Teresa placed her wrinkled hand over Elena Maria's. "People will always judge. It's human nature. But you know what else is human nature? Love. True love. The kind that makes you want to be better. The kind that makes you face your fears. That love doesn't come twice in a lifetime for most people, and you and Diego Alejandro have found it in the most improbable circumstances." "But Ana Cristina is dead," Margarita Teresa said with brutal gentleness. "And I know it hurts to hear it so directly, but it's the truth. She's gone. And as much as we love her, she's not coming back. But you two are alive. Mateo José is alive. And you deserve to build a life that honors her memory by being happy, not withering in guilt and pain." The words resonated in Elena Maria for days. She watched Diego Alejandro play with Mateo José in the afternoons, heard his laughter when the boy did something funny, saw the tenderness in his eyes when he looked at his son. And she realized Margarita Teresa was right. Ana Cristina wouldn't want them to live in perpetual pain. Her letter had been clear. She valued love above all. The decision came on a rainy October night. Mateo José had a nightmare, and Elena Maria had rocked him until he fell back asleep. When she left his room, She found Diego Alejandro waiting in the hallway. "Is he okay?" he asked with concern. "Yes, just a bad dream. He's asleep again." They stood in the hallway, the dim light creating shadows on their faces. The rain beat against the windows, creating a hypnotic rhythm. "Diego Alejandro," Elena Maria began, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about your feelings, about us." He tensed, preparing for whatever might come. "I love you too." The words came out in a whisper, but resonated like a shout in the hallway's silence. "I've tried to deny it, to rationalize it, to find reasons why it's wrong. But I can't. I love you. I love how you love Mateo Jose. I love how you honor Ana Cristina's memory. I love how you make me feel complete for the first time in my life." Diego Alejandro closed the distance between them in 2 long steps, taking her face in his hands. "Are you sure? Because once we cross this line, there's no going back." "I'm sure," Elena Maria responded. "I've never been more sure of anything." He kissed her then, soft at first, then with more intensity, pouring Elena Maria's 42 years of loneliness and Diego Alejandro's 2 years of pain into that single moment of connection. When they finally pulled apart, both had tears in their eyes. "I want you to be my wife," Diego Alejandro said. "I want Mateo Jose to have a real mother, not just a grandmother who acts like a mother. I want to build a life with you, no matter how complicated our history is." "Yes," Elena Maria responded without hesitation. "Yes, I'll marry you." It wasn't a traditional proposal with diamond rings and kneeling. It was something better. 2 people who had suffered too much consciously choosing love over fear, hope over pain. That night, Elena Maria returned to her room with a lighter heart than it had been in decades. She looked at the moon through the window, thinking about Ana Cristina. "I hope you're at peace," she whispered to the night sky. "And I hope you understand this isn't a betrayal. It's honoring your legacy of love. It's making sure your son grows up in a complete family. I'll love you always, my daughter, and I'll care for your family as if they were my own blood, because they are." The rain continued falling, washing the world, preparing it for a new beginning. Happiness, as Elena Maria had painfully learned throughout her life, never came without complications. News of her engagement to Diego Alejandro had begun filtering into high society circles, and the reactions had been varied. Isabel Sofia, Margarita Teresa's niece, launched a whispered campaign of rumors and insinuations. Although she didn't know all the details of the connection between Elena Maria and Ana Cristina, she knew enough to do harm. "It's indecent," she would say at tea parties and social events. "It's barely been 2 years since Ana Cristina died, and he's already engaged to the housekeeper. So I wouldn't be surprised if she planned it all from the beginning." The rumors reached the mansion through various sources, and although Elena Maria tried to ignore them, each whisper was like a small wound to her heart. "Don't pay attention to them," Diego Alejandro advised, holding her while she cried in the privacy of his study. "The people who really matter to us understand. The rest, their opinions are worth nothing." But the real challenge came from an unexpected place. Ana Cristina's adoptive parents, Carlos and Maria Garcia Mendoza. They hadn't had much contact with Diego Alejandro since their daughter's death. The pain had been too great, and seeing each other only served to remind them of what they had lost. But when they heard about the engagement, they appeared at the mansion without warning. "We need to talk," Carlos Garcia Mendoza said, a distinguished man of 65 with silver hair and severe eyes, "about this situation." Elena Maria sat on the living room sofa, with Diego Alejandro beside her holding her hand. Mateo Jose was at preschool, thank God, so he wouldn't have to witness this. Maria Garcia Mendoza, an elegant woman with dyed blonde hair and tears permanently lurking in her eyes, spoke first. "When we found out they had found Ana Cristina's biological mother, well, it was complex. Our daughter searched for years, and then, after her death, you appear." Elena Maria felt the implicit accusation in her words. "I didn't know who Ana Cristina was when I came here," she said calmly. "I came looking for work. Destiny did the rest." "Destiny?" Carlos Garcia Mendoza laughed bitterly. Or convenience? You find your daughter's rich widower and suddenly there's an engagement. Diego Alejandro stood up, his voice tense with barely contained anger. With due respect, Mr. Garcia Mendoza, you don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Carlos responded. I know my daughter died barely 2 years ago. I know this woman was the one who abandoned her as a baby, and I know she's now taking her place in her home, with her son, with her husband. Forgive me if I find that questionable. The words were like slaps, but Elena Maria forced herself to remain calm. She understood their pain because it was her pain too. Mr. Garcia Mendoza, ma'am, and she said softly, I'm not trying to replace Ana Cristina, no one could. You raised her, you gave her the love and life I couldn't give her. I'll be eternally grateful to you for that. Maria Garcia Mendoza let out a sob. Then why? Why marry her widower? Why can't you just be Mateo José's grandmother and let Diego Alejandro move on appropriately? Because we love each other, Diego Alejandro said firmly. I know it's complicated. I know it seems inappropriate, but after 2 years of darkness, Elena Maria brought light back to my life. Are you going to condemn me for choosing happiness over perpetual pain? Ana Cristina deserves to be mourned properly, Carlos insisted. And she has been. Elena Maria stood up, facing him. Every day I think about the daughter I never knew. Every time I look at Mateo José, I see her reflection. When Diego Alejandro tells me stories about her, I cry for the moments I missed. But I also celebrate the wonderful woman she became, thanks to you. She approached Maria Garcia Mendoza, taking her hands. You were her real parents. I was just a womb that carried her for 9 months. You gave her her life, her education, her values. I'm not trying to take your place in Ana Cristina's history. I'm just trying to honor her memory by making sure her son grows up surrounded by love. Maria began to cry harder, and to Elena Maria's surprise, the older woman hugged her. I just miss my baby so much, she sobbed against Elena Maria's shoulder. Every day is hell without her. I know, Elena Maria whispered, her own tears falling. Me too. Carlos Garcia Mendoza watched the 2 women embracing, his expression softening slightly. He approached Diego Alejandro, extending his hand. Maybe I was too harsh. It's just that Ana Cristina was our only daughter, and when she died we felt we lost everything. But you didn't lose Mateo José, Diego Alejandro said, shaking his hand. He's your grandson and always will be. Elena Maria and I will never try to keep him away from you. Can we see him? Maria asked, wiping her eyes. Can we see our grandson? Of course, Elena Maria smiled through her tears. He gets home from school in an hour. Why don't you stay for lunch? What followed was an emotional afternoon where 2 families, united by love and loss, began the healing process. Mateo José, delighted to have more adults who adored him, ran between everyone showing his drawings from school and telling stories about his day. He looks so much like her. Maria watched her grandson with tear-filled eyes. He has her smile. He has her heart too, Elena Maria added. Ana Cristina passed on her kindness to him, even in the short time they had together. Before leaving, Carlos Garcia Mendoza took Elena Maria aside. I was cruel earlier, and I'm sorry. It's just difficult to accept that life goes on when you feel yours stopped. You don't need to apologize, Elena Maria responded. Your pain is valid, but I hope we can find a way to be family together for Mateo José. I'd like that, Carlos nodded. And about your engagement to Diego Alejandro. If it makes you happy, if it gives my grandson a stable home full of love, then you have my blessing. It was a small but important first step. As Elena Maria watched them leave, she felt another weight lift from her shoulders. That night, as she put Mateo José to bed, the boy asked her a question that took her by surprise. Mama, are you and Papa going to get married? Yes, my love, is that okay with you? Mateo José thought for a moment, his little face serious. Does that mean you'll be my mama forever, forever? It means I'll always be here for you, no matter what. Then yes, it's okay, the boy smiled. Because I love you, Mama. I love you too, my angel. more than words can say. As she watched him sleep, Elena Maria reflected on how much had changed in a year. She had come to this mansion just looking to survive and had found a reason to live. She had found family in the most unexpected places, love in the midst of pain, and purpose where before there was only emptiness. The road hadn't been easy, and she knew they would still face challenges. But for the first time in her life, Elena Maria felt she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Preparing for the wedding brought a mixture of joy and anxiety. Diego Alejandro wanted a small, intimate ceremony, just close family and true friends. Elena Maria agreed. After everything they had been through, a public spectacle seemed unnecessary. However, there was a delicate topic they needed to address: Elena Maria's biological family. She had been separated from them for 25 years since they forced her to give Ana Cristina up for adoption and then threw her out of the house. "Have you thought about inviting them?" Diego Alejandro asked one afternoon while they reviewed the guest list. Elena Maria felt her stomach sink. "I haven't spoken to them in decades. My father probably still blames me for dishonoring the family. My mother, I don't know if she ever stood up for me. But they're your family." "You're my family now," Elena Maria responded firmly. "You, Mateo Jose, Margarita Teresa, even the Garcia Mendozas, they're my real family." But destiny, as always, had other plans. A week later, Margarita Teresa entered the study with a strange expression. "There's someone at the door who says she's your sister," she told Elena Maria. Elena Maria felt her blood freeze. Her younger sister, Patricia Dolores, with whom she had been close before all the scandal. "Do you want me to make her leave?" Diego Alejandro asked, becoming protective. "No." Elena Maria stood up, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. "I need to do this. I need to close this circle." Patricia Dolores waited at the entrance, a 37-year-old woman who had inherited the same dark eyes as her sister. Her clothes were simple but clean, and there were worry lines around her mouth that made her look older than she was. "Elena Maria," she said quietly, "I hope you don't mind that I came without warning. I saw your name in the newspaper, the engagement announcement with Diego Alejandro Navarro. How did you find me?" "It wasn't difficult. The Navarro mansion is quite famous." Patricia smiled weakly. "Can we talk? There are things you need to know." They sat in the garden, on the same bench where Elena Maria and Diego Alejandro had had so many important conversations. Patricia nervously twisted her hands. "Mom died 5 years ago," she began. "Pancreatic cancer. It was quick." Elena Maria felt a pang of pain for a mother who had never defended her but who had still been her mother. "I'm sorry, you must have gone through a lot. Before she died, she gave me something." Patricia pulled a wrinkled envelope from her purse. "A letter she wrote to you but never had the courage to send. She made me promise I'd deliver it if I ever found you." With trembling hands, Elena Maria opened the envelope. Her mother's handwriting, shaky but recognizable, filled the pages. "My dear Elena Maria, if you're reading this, it means I died without the courage to tell you in person what I need to say. I'm sorry. I was a coward. I allowed your father to treat you that way. I allowed them to force you to give up your baby. And when I finally stood up for you, it was too late. You were already gone. I need you to know that I looked for you. For years I asked at shelters, hospitals, any place I thought you might be. But it was like you had disappeared. Your father forbade me from saying your name in the house, but I never forgot you. Every March 15th, your daughter's birthday, I would secretly light a candle and pray that you both were okay. I wondered if you would ever forgive me for being so weak, for not fighting harder for you. I don't expect your forgiveness. I just want you to know that I loved you, even when I didn't know how to show it, and I hope you found the happiness we couldn't give you. With love and regret, your mother." Tears fell on the paper, making the ink run. Diego Alejandro, who had been waiting discreetly nearby, approached and put his hand on Elena Maria's shoulder. "Your father?" he asked quietly. "Died 10 years ago." Patricia responded. "Heart attack. He never spoke about you, never admitted he did anything wrong, but Mom carried the guilt until the end. I looked for her too, Elena Maria admitted. When I finally had some stability, I hired a private investigator. But by then they had moved, changed their numbers. It was like our family never existed. Patricia took her sister's hand. It exists now, if you want it to. I have 2 children, your nephews. They missed you without even knowing you because I told them about you, about the brave sister who sacrificed everything. I wasn't brave, Elena Maria shook her head. I was a scared girl who had no choice. You were brave for surviving, Patricia insisted, for moving forward. And now look where you are, engaged to a wonderful man, caring for your grandson, living in this beautiful house. You've built a life better than any dad could have given us. The 2 sisters cried together, mourning the lost years, for the mother who could never ask forgiveness in person, for the family that could have been. Will you come to my wedding? Elena Maria finally asked. You and your children. I'd like to meet my family. We'd love to. Patricia smiled through her tears. That night, Elena Maria showed Mateo José the photos Patricia had brought of his cousins. The boy was fascinated with the idea of having more family. So I have Grandma Elena, I have grandparents Garcia Mendoza, and now I have Aunt Patricia and cousins? He asked, trying to process all the information. That's right, my love. You have a very large family that loves you very much. But you and Papa are my favorite family? He asked with that brutal honesty of small children. We hope so. Elena Maria laughed, kissing his nose. But everyone loves you the same. Diego Alejandro watched from the door, his heart swelling with emotion. After years of loss and pain, they were finally building something beautiful, a real family, complex and tangled but real. The wedding morning arrived with a clear, bright sky, as if the universe itself was blessing their union. Elena Maria, dressed in the main suite, surrounded by Patricia and Maria Garcia Mendoza, who had made peace with the situation and now helped with the preparations. You're beautiful, Maria said, adjusting the lace veil that had belonged to Ana Cristina. Elena Maria had hesitated to wear something of her daughter's, but Diego Alejandro had insisted. Ana Cristina would have wanted this, he had said. She would have wanted to be part of our special day. The dress was simple but elegant, ivory instead of white, appropriate for a second wedding, or in Elena Maria's case, her first real wedding, since she had never married before. Nervous? Patricia asked, taking her hand. Terrified, Elena Maria admitted with a trembling laugh. What if this is a mistake? What if I'm being selfish? Love is never a mistake, Maria Garcia Mendoza said firmly. And my daughter. Ana Cristina never would have wanted Diego Alejandro to live in loneliness. She would have wanted him to be happy, and you make him happy. A soft knock on the door interrupted the moment. Margarita Teresa entered, carrying a small wrapped package. This arrived for you this morning, she said, from San Rafael Hospital. With trembling hands, Elena Maria opened the package. Inside was a small baby hospital bracelet, faded with time, with the name Baby Campos written in faded letters. Attached was a note. Mrs. Campos, during our record search, we found this in the archives. We thought you'd want to have it. It's the bracelet your daughter wore in her first days of life. Dr. Roberto Martin Sanchez. Elena Maria held the small bracelet, this last tangible link to the 3 minutes she had spent with newborn Ana Cristina. Tears ran down her cheeks, ruining her carefully applied makeup. Oh no, your makeup! Patricia started looking for tissues. Let her cry, Maria said softly. Some tears need to be shed. Elena Maria put the bracelet on her wrist, next to the diamond bracelet Diego Alejandro had given her. Past and present united on her skin. Now I'm ready, she said, drying her eyes. Now I can do this. The ceremony took place in the mansion's garden, under the same weeping willow where Elena Maria and Diego Alejandro had had so many important conversations. White chairs were arranged for the 50 guests, family, close friends, the house employees who had become family. Mateo José was the ring-bearer, dressed in a small tuxedo that made him look like a tiny gentleman. He walked down the aisle with serious concentration, holding the pillow with the rings as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. When it was Elena Maria's turn, Patricia accompanied her down the aisle. She had no father to give her away, but she had her sister recovered after so many lost years. Diego Alejandro waited for her at the end of the aisle, and when their eyes met, the whole world seemed to fade away. There were just the two of them, two souls who had traveled impossible roads to meet in this moment. The officiant, a judge friend of Diego Alejandro's, kept the ceremony simple but meaningful. "Love," he began, "doesn't always arrive when we expect it or in the way we expect it. Sometimes it comes disguised as tragedy. Sometimes it comes through pain. But when it's real, when it's true, it cannot be denied." Elena Maria and Diego Alejandro had written their own vows. "Elena Maria," Diego Alejandro began, his voice hoarse with emotion, "you taught me that the heart can heal even when you think it's broken forever. You taught me that love can grow in the most unexpected places. I promise to honor your strength, celebrate your kindness, and love you every day of my life. I promise to be the husband you deserve and the father Mateo Jose needs. I promise that together we'll create a family that honors those we lost while embracing the future we're building." Elena Maria could barely speak through her tears. "Diego Alejandro, I came to your door looking for work and found a home, looking to survive and found a reason to live. I promise to love Mateo Jose as if he were my own son, because in every way that matters he is. I promise to honor Ana Cristina's memory by keeping alive her kindness, her compassion, her love for life. And I promise to love you with everything I am, with every broken part you've helped heal, with every moment of joy you've given me." When they exchanged rings, Mateo Jose clapped, making everyone laugh through their tears. "By the power vested in me by the state, I pronounce you husband and wife," the judge announced. "You may kiss the bride." The kiss was tender but deep, sealing not just their mutual commitment, but also healing decades of pain. When they pulled apart, Mateo Jose ran toward them, and Diego Alejandro lifted him, creating a three-person family embrace. The reception was a joyful celebration. Carlos and Maria Garcia Mendoza danced with Mateo Jose. Patricia introduced her children to their newly recovered aunt. Margarita Teresa cried happily while watching the family she had helped keep together. In the evening, when the guests had left and Mateo Jose was fast asleep, Elena Maria and Diego Alejandro sat in their bedroom, finally alone as husband and wife. "Do you have any regrets?" Diego Alejandro asked. "Not a single one," Elena Maria responded, snuggling against his chest. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. We've been through so much to get here, but it was worth it. Every tear, every moment of pain, every moment of doubt. It was all worth it to get to this moment." Diego Alejandro kissed her hair. "Ana Cristina would be happy for us. I know it. I know it too." Elena Maria looked at the small baby bracelet she still wore on her wrist. "And I think somehow she orchestrated all this. She brought us together because she knew we needed each other." They fell asleep in each other's arms. Two people who had found their way home through destiny's most improbable labyrinth. True love doesn't erase the past. It transforms it into the foundation upon which we build the future. 5 years after the wedding, the Navarro mansion had changed from a cold house full of marble and silence to a vibrant home full of laughter and life. Mateo Jose, now 8 years old, ran through the hallways chased by his younger sister, Sofia Cristina, age 3, named in honor of her half-sister. Elena Maria watched from the kitchen window, her hands resting on her barely rounded belly with their third child. At 48 years old, the pregnancy had been a surprise but a welcome one. Diego Alejandro had cried when she gave him the news, overwhelmed by the beauty of this new beginning. "What are you thinking about?" Margarita Teresa asked, who at 68 still remained the organizational heart of the house, though now in more of a grandmother role than an employee. "I'm thinking about how much everything has changed," Elena Maria responded. 6 years ago, I was cleaning floors and wondering how I'd pay rent. Now I have a family, a home, a purpose. Destiny has a funny plan sometimes," Margarita Teresa smiled. In the living room, Diego Alejandro worked from home, a concession he had made to spend more time with his family. He had delegated much of the daily operations of his company to focus on what really mattered. The front door opened, bringing Patricia with her 2 children, now teenagers, and Carlos and Maria Garcia Mendoza, who came for their weekly visit. "Grandparents!" shouted Mateo Jose, running toward them. Carlos Garcia Mendoza lifted his oldest grandson, a smile softening his once severe features. "How's my favorite boy?" "Grandpa, Sofia is your favorite too," Mateo Jose protested with the impeccable logic of an 8-year-old. "You're right. You're right," Carlos laughed. "All my grandchildren are my favorites." Maria approached Elena Maria, gently touching her belly. "How are you feeling?" "Tired, but happy," Elena Maria responded. "This little one is very active." "Like their mother," Maria smiled, and there was so much affection in her expression that Elena Maria felt her heart swell. Ana Cristina would have loved this, you know. Seeing her son grow up surrounded by so much love, seeing her father so happy. "I talk to her sometimes," Elena Maria admitted. "I tell her about the children, about our life. I hope somehow she can hear me." "I'm sure she can." Maria squeezed her hand. That afternoon, the whole family gathered in the garden for a barbecue. Mateo Jose proudly showed his science project to his grandparents. Sofia Cristina chased butterflies with her cousins. Patricia and Diego Alejandro discussed politics while grilling the meat. It was chaotic, noisy, and perfectly imperfect. When sunset arrived, everyone sat around the large outdoor table Diego Alejandro had bought specifically for these family gatherings. Before eating, as had become tradition, they shared something they were grateful for. "I'm grateful for my family," Mateo Jose said, "especially for Mama Elena, who makes the best pancakes." Everyone laughed as Elena Maria tickled him. "I'm grateful for second chances," Patricia said, looking at her sister, "for finding the family I thought I'd lost. I'm grateful for love that heals," Carlos Garcia Mendoza said, his voice breaking, "for this strange and wonderful family we've built on the foundations of pain." When it was Diego Alejandro's turn, he took Elena Maria's hand. "I'm grateful for the woman who taught me that love can come in the most unexpected forms, who showed me that endings can also be beginnings, and who gave me a family I never dreamed I could have again." Elena Maria wiped her tears before speaking. "I'm grateful for the journey that brought me here, for every difficult moment that made me stronger, for the daughter I never knew but who continues living in her children's eyes, for the man who showed me it's never too late to find your place in the world, and for this beautiful, complicated family that taught me love has no limits." As the sun set over the mansion, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Elena Maria looked around at these people who had become her world. She thought about the impossible journey that had brought her here, about all the impossible coincidences that had to align perfectly. She looked at Mateo Jose, who had fallen asleep in his grandfather Carlos's lap. She looked at Sofia Cristina, cuddled against her Aunt Patricia. She felt the life growing inside her, this new soul preparing to join their chaotic family. And she knew with absolute certainty that everything had happened exactly as it should. The pain had a purpose. Loss had prepared the way for reunion. And love, that persistent love that refused to die even in the face of tragedy, had woven a family from the most improbable threads. Diego Alejandro kissed her softly, whispering against her lips, "I love you today and always." "I love you too," Elena Maria responded. "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for believing we deserved this happiness." As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Elena Maria closed her eyes and sent one last prayer of gratitude to the universe, to Ana Cristina, to the destiny that had been cruel but ultimately merciful. She had spent 42 years looking for a place to belong. And finally, in destiny's most unexpected twist, she had found it not in a big house or material wealth, but in the hearts of the people she loved and who loved her back. True love, she discovered, didn't always arrive when you expected it. But when it came, it was worth every moment of waiting, every tear shed, every lonely night. Because in the end, love was the only thing that really mattered. Love that healed, love that built bridges over impossible chasms, love that transformed pain into joy and loss into redemption. And that love, as complicated and beautiful as it was, had become her true home. The end.